I think that the whole structure of so many of our trusted organisations have been infiltrated.
The cabal have already stated in many forms that they want this planet depopulated. Look around you, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing it, they've got their hands up the jackses of the governments of the world. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind on that now. The cabal are having a great time with our government. They're having a wonderful time. They're feeding off of all that's going on. All these terrible things that are going on, they're feeding off of. They love it. And our government is just, well, I don't even like calling them a government. How can they call themselves a government? They're not a government. They're dictators.
Good morning and welcome to another Foster and Marshall podcast where we ask the all-important questions and want to know the reasons why. And, well, what a week it's been. Last week, you saw me slating off cyclists. And I do want to have to say, before we lunge into the more serious stuff, I never thought men could multitask. I'm going to, again, put the hackles on everybody's lycra-clad back. But I now realise when you're a male cyclist, you can pedal for Britain plus text on your phone. This is a new one to me. And I have to say, I am actually going to, on my dash cam, catch cyclists doing over 30 mile an hour in a 30 mile an hour limit and prove that the cyclists that are cycling up the road at 40 miles an hour aren't actually athletes. These are men going to work. So I think if we ever go down to 20 mile an hour speed limits, I think this could be a very interesting time for cyclists. And that's actually the point I wanted to make. You know, you can all be smug in your lycra tight shorts, and some of those need to be a little bit thicker in the rear region because we get a complete view of your crack as we come up the back of you. So just check the strength of your shorts, lads and lasses, come to that. But yeah, I just want to say, we, both of us in our time have cycled, but do you know what? When we actually got on our bike and were cycling 20 miles a day plus, that's one way and 20 mile an hour back, 20 miles back, we didn't have crash hats and we didn't have super duper bikies like you lot do. We had sometimes only 3 gears on our bikes, okay, 10 max. And that's the absolute gospel truth. So, you know, we might look like two big battle axes, but we're big battle axes because we actually put our big girl knickers on and used to cycle in the pouring rain and the snow and all of the weather conditions on a daily basis right up until we passed our test. And even after I passed my test, I might add, and I know that Marshall's exactly the same. So it'll be caught on a dash cam near me. Trust me, and I will be posting the footage just to prove my point. And the other thing I do want to say, I do admire these guys and girls that cycle to work backwards and forwards. I'm not attacking them at all. And I'm very happy to give them the space because and I know Marshall has, we got clipped by people's wing mirrors. So we are on your side. But I do think that there's an injustice in the fact that you're allowed to text on your bike while you're cycling and aren't actually paying attention on what you're doing. And that's very dangerous on today's roads that are full of potholes because you're actually...
Absolutely. You know, as well as everyone else.
Absolutely. So I'm going to conclude that there because there is far more serious stuff on the agenda, isn't there, Marshall? So I'm going to just thankfully shut up and pass over to Marshall.
Well said, Foster. And I will say this, we enjoyed cycling and I was looking forward to cycling when I moved to Cornwall. And unfortunately, with all the hills and the narrow lanes, which I absolutely adore because they're full of wildlife and they're full of beautiful wildflowers, I'm afraid it was a big no-no. So I cycle indoors now, and I absolutely love it. So cycling, yeah, it's in our blood, isn't it? And I put my old penny farthing bike away, and as I say, I started cycling indoors. And I, it helps to keep you fit. But I found out that keeping fit, one of the most amazing ways is rebounding. And you can get these little rebounders. So that's what I'm on, Foster. I'm getting myself a rebounder.
Well, Marshall, I have to say, when you announce this to me, I have to laugh because every time I walk, I rebound these days. So I think
Yeah.
I'm on a permanent rebound.
Well,
However, I think
it's sorry, Foster, but you're rebounding because
I haven't rebounded.
you're walking on water, love.
Oh, absolutely. I'll second that. All you've got to do is find the halo, folks. Yes, walking on water. But I think at this point, I think I'd prefer to be walking on sunshine as it's June rather than
Oh,
walking on
yeah,
water.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway, we digress.
yeah,
But rebounding. I'm up. No, I read and
yeah, yeah,
I've read up on it, and actually, there's a good point. So I shall
yeah. There's a
let you
lot of
carry
good
on, Marshall.
professor science gone into it. Yeah. So my first of all, I want to say a big thank you to all our followers and the comments, and honestly, it means the world to us both. It really does. And the other thing I do want to say is our hearts go out to the family of the poor Belfast boy with learning difficulties. The horrific, I can't imagine what that poor boy, because the Sudanese immigrant that was, if you want to close your ears off now, please do so,
It really
because
does come with a warning because
yeah,
it was
this
incredibly
really is a
graphic.
warning what I'm going to say. He was actually in the middle of the road trying to gouge this poor boy's eyes out and had a huge knife and was trying to cut his head off. There were many people that came out and they was heroic. They were so brave and heroic. And they did manage to get this man off of him with the help of a spade, actually, because it's what you have to do, isn't it? We are, because there were no police, because I've had experience of this myself. If you call the police now, it can take an hour or more.
Days. Days.
Yeah, it can be. It can be days, and that's no exaggeration.
No.
But in an emergency, even it could be an hour or more, and a lot can happen in that time. And these poor people that were witnessing this, but they were very brave. They got this Sudanese immigrant off. And we're feeling so heartbroken and so disturbed and horrified by it all. And then previous was poor Henry Norvac, and what happened to him. And we know what the police did then. So it all starts at the top when things go wrong and filters down, whether it's managers, companies, CEOs, it all starts at the top. And I will say this, the cabal are having a great time with our government. They're having a wonderful time. They're feeding off of all that's going on. All these terrible things that are going on, they're feeding off of. They love it. And our government is just, well, I don't even like calling them a government. I don't want to call them a government. How can they call themselves a government? They're not a government. They're dictators, aren't they, Foster?
Well, without a doubt, this is not leadership in any shape or form, and I think that the whole structure of so many of our trusted organisations have been infiltrated by a level of lunacy that just goes
Absolutely.
beyond me. How you
Yeah.
can handcuff somebody who is bleeding out
Yeah.
and not
Or just saying they
handcuff.
can't breathe, Foster. He was saying, I can't
Absolutely.
breathe.
Not
There
even
was
to check
no
him. No
empathy,
compassion.
nothing.
No compassion, no
No.
empathy, no nothing. Now, the chap in Belfast that was having his eyes removed and his head basically being attempted to be severed off of his shoulders was actually still alive during this hideous act. And I know that I know that there'll be many people that will want to, excuse me, that will want to just shut off and
Oh, it's
not
so horrific.
think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do respect that. However, if it wasn't for social media, all you would hear on the mainstream is a man has been stabbed. Well, I do think beheaded nearly and having his eyes gouged out while
Yeah.
he's still alive. And we still
Absolutely,
are
Foster.
assuming that he is
And do you
still
know
alive
what?
is beyond just a stabbing.
Can I just add to that? This is a media that is controlled by the cabal, and you can see it, and it's as plain as day, even with what this, because they say a man has been stabbed, but they're happy to show people in other countries all over the world in wars being blown up, blown apart, horrific scenes of people laying dead in the road, but they can't tell the truth of what's going on in our own streets in England, can they? The
No, they
truth
can't.
is not being told. There are people in Kent that are under siege because they're so terrified of going out. And there seems to be pockets of all this. And what I will say, and I'm going to say it again and remind everyone, Hotel Mumbai. That's a classic of where these cells, and these are people, foreigners all over the world, and they get a phone call to do a terrible harm to people for whatever reason. And what is terrifying is that all this is going on. We have got masses of immigrants we know nothing about. If you try to go in or out, in or out on holiday of this country, it's terrible. Queues of people where they have to go through hoops and jump all over the place to give um what they've got in their suitcases, where they're going, and God knows what else, actually. And all these immigrants were let in by the Blair Witch Project, and Gordon Brown. And then the others followed suit, because it doesn't matter about the colours of government, because they all sing from the same podium, and the podium's the same as the one that they planned the pandemic on us all and did all that terrible fear mongering, and they all follow suit. They're all just doing the same old, same old. Don't vote for any colours. They're horrible, and they're dictators and they're puppets. And the cabal have got the hands up their jackses, 100% of what to do. And this country is on the hit list. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind, Foster. We're on the hit list in this country.
I
It's
would.
dilapidated.
Well, I think that's exactly what we're seeing. I think, excuse me, we're seeing a deterioration of absolutely everything, which is a good indication that something has gone very, very wrong within government. And to be honest with you, when you say about the colours, it really is those four primary colours. It's the ones that have historically been in government for long enough now
Too long.
yeah, absolutely, to have made or attempted to make a difference, and none of them have. So whether you voted
It doesn't
Labour,
matter.
Lib Dem, Greens, or Labour, or Conservative, any of them, none of them are going to facilitate the change
No.
that you want.
You're better
Absolutely
off
not.
voting for your cat or your dog. You
Well,
really are.
At this stage, yeah, I agree. And I have noticed on social media now that there are some very thoughtful people that are, saying that we as the public need to stand up. And I agree with that. We do. But I cannot condone burning cars and burning people's homes. I understand the level of anger, but that anger is not being directed in the right place and in the right way, because what actually is happening now is that the burning of everything in Belfast, and believe you me, I really do understand how those people must feel. They must feel incredibly vulnerable, very frightened, and very angry.
Frightened, yeah.
Absolutely. But what this is doing, and by their actions, they're detracting it from the evil, heinous act of what happened to that vulnerable man who had, I believe, learning difficulty. We don't know, so I can't speculate. But when you use that word vulnerable, he probably had no idea what he'd done, what he'd said. And most,
or even if he did, or even if he did say anything.
Absolutely, he probably didn't. He probably didn't, Marshall. But what this is doing is only really distracting from the real heinous crimes. So I think the anger now needs to be where people stand up and speak their truth. And you have to try and do this in the best way possible. Sensible,
united
debate.
And as many people as possible. That's the thing. As many people as possible, united, calmly. You can write on a board. You can hold your boards. We've done it, Foster, haven't we? We were on the anti-war march with the Blair Witch and
well, they all
the
scuttled off.
Bush family with their Bohemian Grove and all their little cabal. And actually, I shouldn't say little because it was massive. Doing all their ritualistic stuff that they did. A horrific family and all part of the cabal. So so it's being calm, and I know our hearts go out to you all because we know, and they know.
Really
this is the thing. They know if they can create us to be angry, it's gonna divert from what is really going on.
And also, it just feeds in to them then saying, we've all become unruly, we now need to put them under surveillance, we need ID cards. And it only assists them. So whether this was a paid cell of people that went into Belfast and created this, or whether this was the locals, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't witness it. But I think this is why it's, sometimes you just have to take an anger and use it constructively rather than using it destructively.
And I know and you're not really easy,
doing any. Yeah, it's not easy to do that. But I do think in this case and in future cases to come, we saw this with Soham, with those young girls. I mean, if we actually look back at what actually has been going on, this is how this level of anger escalates. And it's almost as if we've just got a government that goes, oh, well.
And that is the thing. People are angry because they feel helpless, because the police aren't doing anything. They're not doing their jobs properly.
No.
They're too busy on the road fining people for speeding, and they're feeling helpless. And this is what happens. You take the law into your own hands, which is what happened in the 14th century with the Bakers' riots. And it was terrible, because when you have a rogue government like we have, that haven't fulfilled their promises over and over and over again, you do begin to lose heart and faith, and you look to each other of, what can we do? We don't want this carrying on, and warning others that if it's well, it's, what's the word, Foster, for us all.
Wake
It's
up call.
Yeah, it's happened over centuries, hasn't it, in the
Well,
past?
I think it is. And you see, when somebody starts chiseling away with your trust, it's like we had, let's just look at government.
Yeah.
We had 14 years of the Conservative Party saying, and they all stood on their manifestos, and then they broke every single promise they ever made.
Yeah.
All we're asking is, can you review and can you stop illegal immigration? And I don't think that there's any harm in that, because the clue is in the word illegal. No, the clue is in the word illegal. Okay, so that gets overlooked. And even at the time of the pandemic, scamdemic, these people were still coming over there on those boats unchecked, and we were all going around complying with, all the social distances rules and everything, except for them. And you have to ask yourself, how was that allowed to happen at that time? But so much water has literally gone under that bridge, and this has been allowed to continue. So then you have the Labour Party that have got in, and that's all they are doing. That's why I call them the Labour Party, because that's all they are doing. Yeah. They're lying to the public again.
Yeah.
But I actually believe that this is like a reverse psychology, because they're thinking, if they carry on, they can literally stop government, and then they have the total control. And this is why you need to listen to the people. I'm not going to tell anyone who they should vote for.
Yeah.
But what you have to do is to listen to the person sometimes who speaks from their heart, unscripted, and literally speaks with passion, and is speaking and resonating with you. And sometimes you have to think about making a change in order to accomplish what you want, because government is important, but I actually think the problem is also with the civil service. And although I'm sure there are some fantastic civil servants out there that do a remarkable job, unfortunately there are some that aren't, and they are part of the problem, because they are definitely not speaking our language of the people.
You've only got to look around, Foster, haven't you? Our cities, our villages, our towns, they're all dilapidating, and everybody's feeling it. Everybody's being taxed on this, taxed on that, tax. It's all about tax. And this, we've gone through this pandemic, and to have all this happening as well, it's a kind of different pandemic, isn't it? All the boats coming in. We don't know who they are, where they've come from. There's atrocities being dealt in this country, left, right and centre.
Up and down the country,
Yeah.
And there's so much that we're not hearing of.
Yeah, exactly. How many times have things gone on where people have had their homes broken into, and we don't get to hear of it? Because we've got no local papers now and journalists that do their job. Because journalists used to be red hot on things like that, and they would go round and interview the people about what happened. We know because that's what we grew up with. Local papers, journalists that really did a job of journalism, out on foot, visiting the places, interviewing the people, finding out what happened, writing out a report and putting it in the local newspaper. So they all knew, what was going on. And what have they done? They did away with all local newspapers, didn't they? So it's all like
Absolutely.
a jigsaw puzzle all fitting together, isn't it,
Yeah,
Foster?
well, it's break everything down. Break it down, separate it, divide and conquer.
Yeah,
And interestingly, newsreaders of the past, when
yeah,
you think, of our newsreaders of the past, they had all done frontline
yeah.
journalism.
And they
They'd,
showed emotion.
and they showed emotion, they showed real compassion, real care, and they wanted the truth to get out there. And, I was thinking about the women newsreaders of today who seem to be more worried about how their hair looks and their makeup and how they're coming across. But I remember Kate Adie.
Yeah,
That's the kind of journalist
yeah,
that you want. She was a
absolutely.
frontline woman, and
Yeah,
what a wonderful human being she was. And
yeah.
some of those veteran male newsreaders, and there are a lot of them, they were so
Oh,
fantastic. But now they're all
absolutely.
just reading off a script.
Yeah,
This
it
is
is.
what we're telling you
And
to
you can
say,
tell they're
and you
reading off a
can't.
script, can't you?
How
Because
can somebody speak out and not actually show any emotion? These women haven't showed any emotion on
no,
mainstream
no,
media. The only ones that I've seen do that are the ones either doing podcasts or on. I've seen a few of them. I've seen the male presenters on GB News break down in tears
yeah,
when they
yeah,
were talking about Henry Novak.
yeah,
But the mainstream one, stiff upper lip, I'm getting my money, that's all I care about. I'm just reading off the script. No
yeah,
compassion, no truth, no
yeah,
no actually, right, you're not allowed to go off script, and I'm not, because I want to be, I want to be seen,
yeah.
and I want to
The
be
thing, and the
recognised.
other terrible thing about that is the brain. Because if you're watching that, so you're seeing all this devastation that they're showing you, and they're not showing any emotion to it, that is
Incredible.
desensitizing 100% of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how you can't show any emotion, to be honest. I really don't. I, I was absolutely mortified when I watched the footage of what was going on
Yeah,
in Belfast. I could not believe it. And I thought, well, there we are. That's on a street near you.
yeah,
And
100%. And actually, just everybody look out, please. Go and speak to your neighbours, knock on the doors, make sure you're all right. That's what we grew up with. And just look
community.
after each other because we're going to need to.
Yeah.
Because we've got about 4 years, 2029, 2030. We've got all these databases, and these are horrific. Now, they talk to us about shortages. Oh, every time we get some sunshine, there's a shortage of water. But these databases are going to take lots of our water. There's no worries about that, then, is there? There's
No, a
no
free.
worries. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and then the other thing I do want to talk about is farming. Now, I really enjoyed watching Jeremy Clarkson with his bonfire. It was absolute. I recommend you all watch it. Clarkson's Farm, first episode, and you'll know exactly what I mean. And on a serious note, I really regret burning Guy Fawkes as a kid, and I know I've mentioned it before, but no, and farming. Now, there was some amazing things that Jeremy Clarkson and Caleb visited a farm and in the Netherlands, and what that man is doing, growing all these potatoes and he's using as least possible spray as he can.
Yep.
And this is what it's all about. And I just think this is amazing. And I think, like Guy at Riverford, he doesn't use any chemicals, and he's got a thriving business, and he's expanding. So, and like I said, plant some orchards, start thinking outside of the box, all of you, because I'm going to warn you all right now. Bill Gates, he has 270,000 acres of farmland in the USA, and he's with Bezos. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The two of them are doing Beyond Meat. Now, I am a plant-based person, but I appreciate people that might want to eat meat as well. And what Bill Gates is doing is he and Bezos
It's
are
Bezos.
sorry?
It's pronounced Bezos, and he's
Bezos.
the CEO of Amazon.
Right. Well, those two together are now injecting this Beyond Meat with other nasty chemicals. And if you think it's okay, it's in the USA, forget it, because they're on their way here already. Because Bill Gates has been going in to meet with Starmer a lot. And he's not doing that for nothing, I can assure you. And by the way, Bill Gates has never invented anything in his life. He's taken stuff that other people have invented. Listen to Professor Vandana Shiva. She's on the case with Bill Gates. She's a beautiful Indian professor. I love her to bits. And he needs to be investigated, as they all do. But he's part of the cabal. So be careful, all you farmers out there, because I'm just warning you that he's around. It's not just the USA, and he's up to no good. And it's always involving pumping us full of poison.
I couldn't agree more, Marshall, to be honest with you. I think what you have is you've got a group of very bored individuals that instead of turning their money into good causes, they've just decided that they want to rule the world.
Well, they're depopulation.
Yeah, depopulation, because they want the whole thing. They think that the next best thing is to own the whole planet.
Yeah.
And this is why we see them playing God quite a lot with this whole climate fiasco that they call net zero, carbon neutral. Just remember, we're the carbon folks.
I know.
Absolutely, they're telling us.
Saying.
They're actually telling it. They're saying saying it directly to our faces. So wake up, people, smell the coffee, which is ridiculous. And a lot of what we're seeing now with the weather, there's been a lot of things that have gone on actually on the surface of the sun and planetary alignments. And each time we have these big solar flares, etc., it does create a difference. But we also have to look at what we've always spoken about on and off on our podcast, is chemtrails. And I think that what we've got now in Flaming June, if only, is the kind of end product of that, where we're now seeing such a lot of heavy rainfalls. So, and then that justifies their end game then, because once they perhaps start meddling around with rainfall, temperatures, they can say, look, it's climate change. But the planet has always...
let's get more plastic bins out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's create something from plastic. But whatever it is that I think we are just being completely and utterly led down a rocky road. And until we actually wake up as individuals and say
100%.
no. It's very simple. The word is no. and we
Yeah.
actually have more power than we realise
Yeah.
as
And by the
individuals.
way, we're not anti-AI. AI is absolutely brilliant. What I personally am against, and I believe Foster is too, is that ultimately what they want to do is have humans part AI, part human, but mainly AI. And I don't know if you can visualize all that, but it will be horrific. And this planet, all of it, will completely change. It will become a very dark, sinister, horrible place. There won't be any life as we know it.
No, and
And
I
Greg
think
Braddon, he's been warning about this. Greg Braddon, Billy Carson, Graham Hancock, they're all saying the same thing, and many more. And I have to say this, I am relieved and comforted to know that the Templars are still around. And I have been listening to Timothy Hogan. I love the man. I think he's brilliant. And it has been a great comfort to know that the great Templars are being seen and heard now. This is very close to our hearts, isn't it, Foster?
it
Especially
certainly
yours.
is. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've been very interested in the Templars for a very long time now. And again, it's one of those where they've been painted as being very bad, but they weren't. They did an awful lot of good, actually. So you need to know about the real history of the Knights
Yeah,
Templars.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But I just want to row back a little bit with what you've said now about the half man, half robot. Now, we have had some excellent film directors that have given us a very strong idea of how this can manifest, because we had Terminator, we had RoboCop, iRobot. We've had loads of films that have indicated to us that this is kind of on an agenda somewhere. And
Yeah,
I believe
absolutely,
as
Foster.
film directors and creators, where they are very creative, right-brained people, I believe they really are tuning in on a completely different level. I know that's another subject and we're going to go off on a tangent, but I do now see how, even with Star Trek and stuff like that.
I absolutely agree, because a lot of the directors, it's come true. The films that it's like they're telling us.
Yeah, yeah. Even when you think about things like, we've got Star Trek and then we've got Star Wars and we've got all of these different things. And I'm not saying that that's exactly how it's going to be, but I think when you look back at the old Star Trek where they flip their small walkie-talkie, if you like, and communicate, and and then you see some of the mobile phones that came out where you could clip it over and have your conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it's really fascinating how the fictional, I'm going to say that, fictional world actually comes into a form of reality.
I think there's a lot going on in space that we're not being told about, and don't rely on NASA. For goodness sake, anybody. That's just a front. There's a lot going on in space. There's more technology than anybody could even realise going on. We're just all being kept dumbed down.
I think, yes, I agree. I think for me, I'd always kind of had, if I like, say, a respect for NASA. But I think when 3i Atlas was there bobbing around in the universe, that they went radio silent. Yeah. And I thought that was incredibly telling from an organisation that want to know about space exploration and everything that was going on interstellar. They all of a sudden went very, very quiet, and that actually made me think about actually what is their purpose.
Yeah,
you exactly. Have this. We have this great celestial being that flies in around our solar system,
And
and nothing to see here. Excuse me.
and it's what was happening with AI Atlas, and we're relying on people like Stephen Burns, weren't we? The great,
Stephen Burns. I love Stephen. I'll tell you, anyone who's interested in space weather, volcanoes, earthquakes,
what's solar flares.
solar flares. Stephen Burns is such a fantastic young man, very intelligent, very well educated, and he holds some brilliant podcasts. I have learnt so much from Stefan. He really is space weather bro. He really is. And this man talks sense, and he's a very caring, spiritual man because he studies astrology as well. So he's very interested in the planets and planetary alignments, and has actually made some very interesting predictions through those planetary alignments, and also with the solar flares, because he predicted these big earthquakes that have just gone on, the 8.2 and also the 6.4 in Florida.
Because they can affect the whole planet, all of us. If one of those takes off and covers us all, which has happened in the 17th century, when I think it was months, everyone was in darkness.
I think that was Krakatoa.
Yeah. And I do want to add about NASA. I'll tell you when I changed my views on NASA was with the great archaeologist Graham Hancock, who's been on ancient aliens and written numerous books, some of which I have. He had actual photographs of Mars and the Sphinx on Mars and the star systems of the smaller pyramids on Mars, which match up to here on Earth. And NASA, I don't know what you call it, but they changed the photograph to make it look like it was shadows. But Graham Hancock had the original photographs where you could see very plainly exactly what it was. And he had professors go over them to check whether it was all authentic, and it was. So that's when I changed, and I think Graham Hancock did too, towards NASA, because they just don't want us knowing anything, do they?
No, because it means they have to rewrite the history books, and they're not about to do that. I mean, again...
No, they filled us full of BS with history, right across the board. They really have.
Yeah, they have. They have. And there's some really good programs out there that really prove that.
So anybody out there, go and research all this because it's fascinating. Check out Admiral Byrd. He was a great man, great explorer. Check him out. And by the way, Timothy Hogan is a great explorer because there's a massive, beautiful Egyptian figure of Anubis on the side of one of the Grand Canyon walls. And this is genuine and it's absolutely amazing. And all that area where the artifacts were found from Egypt in the Grand Canyon, it's all been cordoned off now. Nobody's allowed there at all. Again, Smithsonian went in, took out the artifacts. Where have I heard that from? Stonehenge. In the 40s, a man was sent up to dig down at Stonehenge, and he was there most nights digging, taking artifacts away where they didn't want people to find them. So it goes on. But yeah, the Egyptians, it makes you wonder how far they did travel, because they were definitely up the Grand Canyon, that's for sure.
Yep, I think we've got some pure evidence around the world that this was a kind of, there was a definite conscious connection between various different cultures around the world that all replicate one another.
Absolutely.
And in those times, they didn't have any other means of communication. So they can't, we can't say, oh, it's, if it happened now, we'd all say, well, we had the internet, we had this, we had that. they didn't have that at that time. So
No,
you
they were
have to start.
seafarers.
Yeah, they were seafarers, but even then, there are just the way the architecture of the pyramids and the stone monuments is just can't be replicated today.
No,
I mean, we can't even
no.
do roads. We can't build
The
roads.
roads, the potholes. Before we get on to that, Foster, I just want to say about, carry on the conversation a bit, about the Egyptians, because Timothy Hogan has spoken about this, and he has said and stated the great Templars were involved in seafaring themselves. And it's absolutely fascinating how Vikings were involved with the Templars as well. And they found out, I'm not going to say right now how, but they found out a lot about Atlantis, and it is real, and it goes back many, many thousands of years, and it's quite fascinating. And it's something Foster and I are going to do a complete program on, because these are, to me, I like I said before, they are a great comfort to me to know that we do have these great people looking after us and watching our backs, because my God, the world needs it right now.
Yeah, we need the truth speakers. We need the people that are speaking the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Absolutely.
And are literally shining on the darkness of the lies and betrayal and the deceit, because there's an awful lot of that about.
Yeah, absolutely, Foster. And regarding if they can build, I mean, I'll tell you, when I was a little girl, we used to have, honestly, it never happened very often while I was young, but steamrollers would come and they would build the road. And when they built a road, it lasted. You never saw potholes. And steamrollers, it was the age of the steam as well. So there was a lot of steam. These great big heavy steam engines would be you'd see them. And I have to say, you would even see from the Second World War tanks. I remember seeing army tanks. Obviously, I wasn't in the Second World War, but they were still using tanks from A to B, still doing their manoeuvres. But the roads, you never saw potholes. So,
No.
okay, so here we go. See what you think of this, Foster. But here's my look on it. And I remember saying this a long time ago. Everything's dilapidating, our clothes as well, because they're not made properly. We're being poisoned by water, forever chemicals. They even don't worry about the raw sewage. They don't worry about anything, do they, actually? Because the water plants are dilapidated. And so you've got all of that. It's all dilapidation. And it's like they don't intend for us to be around much longer. You know when you're putting your heart and soul into something and making something properly and making it last. Well, there we go. I'll rest my case with it, because that's what I feel. I feel that the governments, we're not around much longer as far as they're concerned. They're poisoning us with the water. I mean, how on earth can, I just can't believe it, Foster, really, when you really think about it. Well, in our tap water, it's poison. And the forever chemicals, the aluminium, which we know affects and gives Alzheimer's, and there are different types of Alzheimer's. I mean, Foster, my God, it's quite frightening when you really think about it, So to know that there are people looking after us and watching our back is very special.
I agree. I think actually the more you think about it, I mean, I know before we started the podcast, it was all going to be about holy wells and using pure water
and
from
there
wells.
Are holy wells.
And there are, and each holy well is known for its particular healing properties for various different ailments and bodily functions, and they're dotted up and down our great island. But little did we know that on the cusp of doing our very first podcast that we were going to be looking at forever chemicals on Panorama and dirty business on Channel 4. And I think, from that point on, I can definitely speak for Marshall here, because we've had many chats and just sat and looked at each other and gone, is this really happening to us in 2026?
Up in the early hours of the morning,
Absolutely.
Where we can't sleep because we're worried.
Where we're looking at and we're literally mulling this over in our minds, going, how can this be allowed to happen?
Yeah.
And it just goes back with everything that we've spoken about today, is it goes back to one point, one place where we all need to shine our light, and that is in the Houses of Parliament.
Absolutely,
you
100%.
have to look at who is leading or not leading the country, as the case may be. Because I don't believe the leadership is coming from the government. I think they're being told what to say. They're all too blasé. If we can stay up with a conscience all night thinking, how can they possibly do that to our water systems? How could they possibly poison the rivers and the seas and create E. coli and all of this awful,
and how
awful,
could they
vile
be doing
disease?
That jabathon with screaming children being dragged by their parents to have these injections, which we now know 100% is detrimental to our health. There's been many researches done on it all now.
And I think
then the people that didn't have the vaccines were persecuted. And that is what the government did. That's how clever they are. They construe things to happen, don't they? People
divide
to
and
turn
conquer.
and police other people, whether
Divide.
it's religion, money, whatever, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a complete divide and conquer. And that's what we actually have to look out for. That's the warning side, and also the deflection. So I'm going to kind of try, bring this to sort of a conclusion, Marshall, and that's saying, be wary of where you're being led and what you're being led into. So although I absolutely empathise with the good people of Belfast and those up and down the country that came out.
Absolutely, our hearts go out to you
absolutely.
all.
But you're not...
And we all need to stand together calmly and say no more.
Absolutely. There has to be a way of handling this where we are actually using our own moral compass. That doesn't mean to say that we're all going to sit there all being compliant. It means we have to think and plan out a strategy. And we are not accepting this anymore from a leadership. We didn't vote for this. We didn't want this. In actual fact, we've always said no. Even from those that voted to come out of the EU, with the referendum, it's been this complete ignore.
Brush it under the carpet. There's a great big mountain now, higher than Everest, isn't there?
I know. I think so. I honestly think so. But I think the Hoover bag is about to burst. To be honest with you.
Absolutely.
And I think that the wheels have come off. And I think
100%.
that people now have to sit down and go, what can we realistically do now to stop this from ever happening again? We've had it before.
March in your millions, as many as possible, calmly.
Absolutely. We need strong protest, no violence, no burning vehicles, no burning people's homes. That is absolutely not necessary. It really is not the way forward, because in actual fact, the more you burn, the more you're actually playing into the government's hands.
Absolutely. 100%.
And you're just quite literally inflaming the situation.
And everybody needs to unite really and honestly on this for it's saving our lives of our children.
Absolutely.
And their children and the planet. And I don't say this lightly. This is 100%. the cabal have already stated in many forms that they want this planet depopulated. Look around you, and that's exactly what they're doing it. And they're doing it with, you know, they've got their hands up the jackses of the governments of the world. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind on that now. There are some great people. There really are some great people, thank God. As I say, everybody look after each other and watch out for each other. And a big thank you to those people that really were very brave and intervened in Belfast and got that man off, that Sudanese immigrant off of.
Well, he's a barbarian. I mean, I
Yeah,
think people have
it's
referred
barbaric.
to him as an animal, and I think no animal would do that. That was a heinous act, without a doubt. And I don't know what is in somebody's mindset to do that.
No.
It
Well,
goes
like I
beyond
say,
it goes beyond my comprehension.
yeah, I believe in these cells. They call themselves. They're people. They're sent out special to cause bloodshed, fear, and division.
And we need to say no, and we need
Yeah,
to stop it all.
absolutely, 100%, Foster. So we'd just like to end now by saying, look after each other. You know, we care about people. That's how we've been brought up. Looking after people, caring for people, and we want that to continue. So look out for each other, and we'll say goodbye for now. A big thank you to everybody for supporting us, and you know, everybody out there, and is looking after our planet and us as a whole. Because and I'd like to say a big thank you to Neil Oliver. I've been listening and watching Neil Oliver. He's brilliant, and I think, like us, Foster, he has sleepless nights. You do. People do that care and love and want to help. You do have sleepless nights because, you know, you're thinking about everything in the world. And I've even imagined myself looking down on the planet and thinking about all the beautiful things that we have on this wonderful planet of ours, and how sad it is about all the wars and all the suffering going on when there's no need for it at all.
Nope, no need for wars. We're now in the 21st century. We should actually be able to sit down and negotiate sensibly and wisely. Yes, there are countries that have nuclear weapons, but they're not actually using them on anyone, which is a good sign. But yeah,
well,
like
again, that's
Marshall,
ludicrous in itself, isn't it, Foster? Because that's like eliminating everyone, including themselves. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? That's
yeah,
like a massive sell to me. Complete, their minds completely frazzled and lost. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, nobody wants the end. Nobody wants it to be the end. So, yes, great huge thank you. Please remember to like, share, leave your comments, good and bad. We'll listen to them. We'll either
bike,
ignore
Foster.
you. Will I get on my bike? I know I'm going to have the same barrage as I did in the first
On
one.
your
But anyway,
bike.
on my bike. Well, I've cycled. I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, because we want to say a big thank you to the person that said that we were crap, and a special thank you, and for saying that we needed to get on our bike.
We've done our time on our bike, sunshine.
Yeah.
We really have.
Except, Foster, I've got a confession. I got back on my bike, my indoor bike.
Your indoor bike, yes. I get it. I do get it.
Yeah.
I like you live in an area where actually getting on your bike or even walking up the road is very precarious because they are narrow country lanes, and I admire those that do. But I walk the moors, So in hail,
Yeah,
rain and whatever,
absolutely. Through all weathers.
through all weathers, me and my darling dog go out and brace the elements every day.
Freezing cold, wind, rain,
Yeah,
monsoons,
you name it, we've done it. And
snow.
absolutely snow. Yeah, got the recording of that. So
Yeah.
I just think, it really isn't a good argument when you just say somebody's crap, and I'm like, well, tell us why. Give us the
It
reason why you
brought
think we're
great
crap.
joy to us, actually. We did have
Yeah,
a laugh.
absolutely. Come on, I mean, we do have a bloody good laugh
Yeah.
at your comments, and we also relish those that come with a valid argument. I like a debate. So instead of just saying crap, tell us why, because I
Yeah.
can assure you now
Yeah.
that I will be evidencing everything that I've spoken about, including the guy who cycles quite regularly whilst texting. Multitasking man. Very
Multitasking
impressive.
man.
Very,
Wow.
yeah. I know, that's very impressive, I have to say. But rather him than me. But, just remember to like, subscribe, and leave your comments, good and bad, if you really do think we're crap. Well, you know what to do, don't you? Jog on. Or should I say, pedal faster in another direction.
Yeah.
That suits me. So I think, in my words, stay happy, stay healthy, and above all else, stay sane.
Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.